It's Thursday, May the 7th, 2026. You're listening to the DX Today AI Daily Brief. Today, the European Union strikes a deal to streamline its AI Act. Snap and Perplexity walk away from a $400 million partnership. And Corning soars after a sweeping optical infrastructure pact with NVIDIA. Let's get into it.
We begin in Brussels, where the European Council and Parliament have reached a provisional agreement to simplify and streamline the bloc's landmark AI Act. Negotiators agreed yesterday to postpone the deadline for establishing national AI regulatory sandboxes until August 2nd of 2027, giving member states an additional year to stand up testing environments for high-risk systems. The deal also tightens transparency rules for synthetic content, cutting the grace period for labeling AI-generated material from 6 months down to 3. The compromise follows a failed political trilogue in late April that left European industry warning of fragmented enforcement. With high-risk obligations still set to take effect this August, regulators say the streamlining package gives developers clearer runway without weakening core protections.
From Brussels to Santa Monica.
Snap disclosed in its first quarter earnings call yesterday that its much-publicized $400 million partnership with Perplexity has, in its own words, amicably ended. The deal, announced last November, was meant to embed Perplexity's AI-powered search engine directly inside Snapchat, giving the messaging app a native answer engine to compete with Google and Meta. Chief Executive Evan Spiegel told analysts the integration never fully rolled out, and Snap has now removed Perplexity revenue from its second quarter outlook. Neither company offered a detailed reason for the split, though analysts point to Snap's broader cost discipline. The company recently announced layoffs of roughly 1,000 employees and the closure of 300 open roles, a move Spiegel attributed to rapid advancements in AI.
On to the chip and infrastructure beat.
Corning was the standout story on the trading floor yesterday, with shares climbing 14% after the company unveiled a multi-year commercial and technology partnership with NVIDIA. The agreement will expand U.S. manufacturing of advanced optical connectivity products, including high-density fiber, photonic engines, and pluggable transceivers, all aimed at next-generation AI data centers. Corning executives said modern AI workloads now require unprecedented volumes of optical fiber to move data between racks at the bandwidth and latency that NVIDIA's Rubin and Blackwell platforms demand. NVIDIA, for its part, gets a domestic supply lock on a critical bottleneck. Wall Street called it the cleanest read yet on how AI spending is rippling out of GPUs and into the entire optical supply chain.
Staying with infrastructure.
365 Data Centers and Aphorio Carter, the critical infrastructure arm of Carter Funds, formed a strategic partnership yesterday to develop roughly 200 megawatts of AI-ready data center capacity across the United States. The two firms have signed letters of intent for priority sites in Aurora, Colorado, and Simpsonville, Kentucky, with additional locations planned in Connecticut, Virginia, and Ohio. The pipeline targets second-tier metros where power, land, and water remain available. A deliberate move away from the saturated markets of Northern Virginia and Phoenix. Executives framed the build-out as enterprise-grade capacity for hyperscalers and AI-native tenants who can no longer secure sites in primary hubs. Construction on the first two projects is expected to break ground later this year.
Now to the workforce story.
Cybersecurity firm Arctic Wolf disclosed yesterday that it is cutting roughly 250 positions, citing a strategic pivot toward AI-driven detection and response. The Eden Prairie, Minnesota company said the affected roles span analyst tiers, customer success, and back-office functions, areas where Arctic Wolf is now routing workflows through internal AI agents instead of human reviewers. Chief Executive Nick Schneider told staff the cuts will fund accelerated investment in autonomous threat triage, a capability the company has been piloting since late last year. Arctic Wolf is the latest in a long string of mid-sized tech firms restating headcount around AI tooling. Tech industry trackers report that nearly half of the 80,000 layoffs recorded across the sector in the first quarter were attributed at least in part to automation.
From security to enterprise software.
ServiceNow took the stage at its Knowledge 2026 conference in Las Vegas yesterday to unveil a major expansion of what it calls the autonomous workforce. Chief Executive Bill McDermott introduced a fleet of AI specialists designed to complete entire business processes end-to-end, spanning IT operations, customer relationship management, human resources, finance, legal, procurement, security, and risk. The agents are built on the company's Now Assist platform and are trained on customer-specific workflows rather than generic prompts. McDermott told attendees that enterprises now need AI that, quote, senses, decides, and securely acts. ServiceNow announced co-development arrangements with Microsoft and NVIDIA for the underlying infrastructure and said the first specialists are already in production with several Fortune 100 customers.
Turning to earnings.
BigBear.ai posted first quarter results yesterday that surprised even the most bullish analysts. The Columbia, Maryland defense and analytics firm reported profit margins of 34%, up from 21% in the fourth quarter of last year, on revenue that grew faster than its largest competitors. Chief Executive Mandy Long credited the jump to the company's expanding portfolio of AI-powered decision support contracts with the U.S. Army, Air Force, and Department of Homeland Security. BigBear also flagged new commercial wins in supply chain risk and biometric identity verification. Shares rallied in after-hours trading, extending a multi-month run that has made the small cap one of the best-performing pure-play AI stocks of the year. Analysts now see further upside as federal AI budgets continue to expand.
Speaking of chip earnings,
Advanced Micro Devices delivered another beat. The Santa Clara chipmaker reported first quarter revenue of $10.25 billion, well ahead of the $9.89 billion analysts had penciled in. Adjusted earnings per share came in at $1.37, also topping estimates. Most importantly, AMD raised its outlook for the current quarter, citing what Chief Executive Lisa Su called accelerating demand for the MI350X accelerator and the upcoming MI400 series. Hyperscalers including Microsoft, Meta, and Oracle have all expanded their AMD commitments this year, narrowing what was once an overwhelming NVIDIA lead. Shares jumped 16% on the print, lifting the entire chip complex and pushing the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index to a new record close.
and in compute deals.
Anthropic confirmed it has signed an agreement to access compute capacity from Elon Musk's SpaceX, specifically the Colossus 1 data center cluster outside Memphis, Tennessee. The arrangement gives the Claude maker access to a substantial portion of the facility's GPU footprint, on top of recent capacity deals with Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. Anthropic said the additional headroom will let it lift rate limits for Claude Pro and Claude Max subscribers, who have faced periodic throttling as enterprise demand for the model has accelerated. The SpaceX tie-up is notable because Musk has publicly feuded with Anthropic over safety policy, but executives on both sides framed the deal as purely commercial. Anthropic's annualized revenue recently crossed $30 billion, surpassing OpenAI for the first time.
Now to robotics.
Cadence Design Systems and NVIDIA expanded their partnership at the Cadence Live Silicon Valley Conference, combining Cadence's high-fidelity multi-physics simulation engines with NVIDIA's Isaac robotics libraries and the Cosmos open-world models. The goal is to close the persistent sim-to-real gap, the performance drop robots experience when they move from virtual training environments into the physical world. Cadence's electromagnetic, thermal, and structural solvers will plug directly into Isaac's neural reasoning stack, allowing humanoid and industrial robots to be trained on simulated factories that match real-world physics with far greater fidelity. NVIDIA Chief Executive Jensen Huang said the integration will compress robot development cycles from years to months. Several automotive and warehouse automation customers are already piloting the joint stack.
2 more workforce stories.
Coinbase confirmed it has cut roughly 14% of its staff, around 700 employees, in what Chief Executive Brian Armstrong is calling the most aggressive AI-driven reorganization in the crypto exchange's history. Beyond the headcount reduction, Coinbase is restructuring its entire management layer. Traditional middle managers are being replaced with what Armstrong calls player coaches, leaders expected to do hands-on engineering, design, or product work alongside their teams, while leveraging AI agents for coordination and reporting. Armstrong said the goal is to flatten the organization and let AI handle status updates, project tracking, and routine review cycles. The move comes as the company faces compressed trading volumes and a need to defend margins, and it has triggered significant unease across the broader fintech workforce.
And finally,
Cognizant disclosed plans to eliminate between 12,000 and 15,000 positions worldwide, one of the largest single workforce actions ever announced by a global IT services firm. The Teaneck, New Jersey company said the cuts will land hardest in application maintenance, manual testing, and Tier 1 support, the precise functions where generative AI coding and ticketing tools have proven most disruptive. Chief Executive Ravi Kumar S. told staff the company will reinvest the savings into AI-native delivery teams and a new hub of so-called neuro-engineers trained to orchestrate large language model agents on client engagements. The announcement intensifies pressure on rivals Infosys, Wipro, and TCS, all of whom face similar margin compression as enterprise clients rebid contracts around AI-enabled productivity. That's your briefing for Thursday, May 7th, 2026. For DX Today, stay curious.